I'll go through the intro here in a minute. The intro is super quick, less than 5 minutes, and then we're going to jump into introductions for the rest of the panel of the roundtable, and then we're going to do an hour of Q&As. I got some fun questions queued up. I'm assuming everyone here, their main question is how can I stand out, grow my business, and get more sales? Everyone in e-commerce, that seems to be their number one question. We'll talk about the advantages of some of the solutions that are represented on this panel, when you might be ready for that. We've got a lot to talk about. Like I said, an hour is way too fast, but we wanted to do this during the day, so it's a fun one, and I'm excited to do it. So I'll just get started a little bit early, just so we can have more time for Q&As. For those of you that don't know, I'm Chase Clymer. I'm your host for this webinar, and I'll be on the Q&A panel as well. I want to thank everyone for attending. Doing these virtually has been a learning curve for us, but it's been really fun. It allows us to do them more frequently and get a wider net of people from all over the world. So it's been really fun doing that. I figured out how to do the YouTube live thing, the Facebook live thing, but not the YouTube thing just yet. Hopefully I'll get that figured out by the next one. But a little bit about these events. We do these in partnership with Shopify. Education is our mission. Originally we were doing this in person, and we wanted to create a thriving local community here in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from, and my partner Sean and most of our team is here in Columbus. But now that we can do them virtually, let's do them all over the world. We used to do them in Denver as well. So I think there's a few people here from Denver, people from Columbus, and then obviously Shopify has helped market this a bit, and everyone else on the panel has helped market this event a bit. So hopefully we got people from all over the place in here. And our attendees themselves, they range from like seasoned e-commerce experts like us on the panel down to budding entrepreneurs, all brought together here trying to learn and grow as professionals. These meetings will always be free, always open to everybody. Most of the time, these meetings or meetups kind of feature speakers, but for this one, we wanted to try a longer Q&A. Q&A seems to be where a lot of the time is spent during these meetings. So we're just going to do a full Q&A here with some experts. Typically, when we do these in person, there's food. It's usually terrible pizza, so I apologize for anyone that hasn't had lunch. I can't give you pizza, but maybe in the future when we can get back to real events. So about this meetup, wow, I hit my mic. We've got a few sponsors for today's meetup. Obviously, like I said, Shopify themselves sponsors this. It's a great solution out there if you're looking for a platform to help sell your products. Additionally, one of our sponsors for this is Klarna. They provide smooth payments for people out there in the ecosystem that are looking for financing options. Klarna is a good thing to check out. And then lastly, I'm going to shamelessly plug my business, Electric Eye. We're a full service agency. We're Shopify partners and experts. I'd also say you should check out everyone on the panel's business. Ari has an amazing product over there at Littledata, and Jordan's CartHook app is phenomenal as well. And I don't know where Sterling is just yet. Hopefully he jumps on soon, but he's got an awesome product to help businesses kind of build out an MVP. Hey, there he is. I was just talking about you. How you doing, Sterling?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I was just plugging your business, actually.
Oh man, plug away. Don't let me stop you.
I was saying that you have a great business model to help people get these kind of sourced out and figured out. I love your idea of getting it done within a week, and I was going to ask you about that after the fact and get more into that. But we can talk about that during this whole thing.
That sounds good, man.
I just got a little bit more housekeeping to take care of here. So as far as these meetups go, the virtual ones, like I said, they're a little bit easier. So I think we're going to try to do these monthly, but don't hold me to that. And once we get it figured out, obviously anyone that's in attendance, you'll get this in your inbox with whatever the next date's going to be. All of these meetups can be found on our YouTube channel. And also we have a bunch of content on our YouTube channel. And our Facebook group has all of that as well. Honest eCommerce is kind of like our content engine. So we've got blogs. More than half the guests have been featured on our podcast as well. We're doing a lot more on YouTube this year. So if any of this is interesting to you and you like this type of content, you should definitely subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, again, I'll kind of go around and introduce everybody on the panel today. You got myself, Chase, probably the least informed person of the group. We've also got Jordan from CartHook. Say hello.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Ari from Littledata.
Hi.
Awesome. And then Sterling from Sandbox Commerce, correct?
Greetings, yes.
Awesome. Well, I guess maybe let's just get into it. We got an hour here for Q&As, a little less than an hour. We want to definitely get done by 2:30 for everybody. So if you have any questions, like I said, there is a Q&A button on the actual webinar software through Zoom. At the bottom of your screen, you see Q&A, and you can ask questions in there. There's also a chat window where you can type, responses to anything we're talking about here. But I guess I got a question for everyone else in the group today. Obviously, my perspective is that of an agency owner and of a partner, I guess, and we are working to solve problems that merchants have, and our problems are super varied and all over the place. And obviously, we live in a very odd time right now with coronavirus and all that going on. So I guess in the past couple of months, what unique problems have you guys seen arise in the ecosystem that people need help with solving?
I'll take it. I'll jump in from our perspective. I think like most others, when the crisis first hit, we just took a step back and we really didn't know which way things were going to go. And fortunately, things went the right way, and e-commerce started to boom, and everyone got, everyone's fears ended up working out the right way. So we saw a lot of our merchants start to do a lot of volume, and they started to run into supply chain issues and inventory issues and kind of good problems to have. I think the fear around what was going to happen with like advertising costs didn't materialize. That I actually look forward to hearing from other people's perspective, because we don't see that side of the funnel. We see the other end. We see the very end of it at the checkout. We try to get people's average order value up. And really what we're trying to do is give them a better return on ad spend so they can spend more money on ads. But I'd like to hear from the other perspective at the very top of the funnel. But from our vantage point, certain categories have benefited tremendously. And it is a strange thing for all of us in e-commerce. There's a bit of guilt involved in the fact that some segments of the economy, restaurants, gyms, things that are in-person events, are really struggling, and we happen to be really booming, but there's really not much to do there other than lean into it, take advantage where it makes sense to do so, kind of give back to our communities locally where we can. But this is a moment for e-commerce. And the question that we're asking ourselves now is this a new floor? Is this the new normal, or does it come back down to earth? We've seen a plateau, but the plateau is about double what it was in January, February. And it's kind of hanging out right there for us. And so does it dip before the holidays, or does it just stay here? That's kind of what's on our mind.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw some data that said that I'm going to murder this because this was like a month ago when I read this article, but essentially like we hit the 10-year goal of what e-commerce like penetration of the market was supposed to be. Like just during the pandemic, we jumped forward 10 years.
Yeah.
So that hockey stick graph.
Exactly.
Right.
And
obviously for all of us being in e-commerce, it is a little guilty. I wanted to agree with you there. Like I've been working this whole time. We've been extremely busy this whole time. But it affected different parts of the market all over the place. Sterling, you had something to put in?
yeah, I was going to say, I've been on industry calls with Goldman Sachs and McKinsey industry calls, especially toward the very beginning, whenever I was like searching, probably like a lot of you, for answers and trying to read tea leaves, so to speak, trying to figure out what way the wind will blow. And like Jordan mentioned, me and my team at Sandbox, well, first, we were able to kind of help our employees out and to say, hey, look, here's a little bit of extra cash. We don't know what you're going to need to use it for, but for me, I got a deep freezer from our refrigerator to throw some meat in so I could at least smoke some meat periodically. But just to make sure that you're settled in, and if you need it, you could stay at home for an extended period of time if you needed to. And then from there, we were like, okay, let's get back to business. What are our customers saying? What are prospective customers saying? What pain points are they experiencing? And for those of you guys that don't know what we do, we are a no-code drag and drop retailer for Shopify, BigCommerce, and WooCommerce app stores. So these retailers can just literally build an app, drag and drop, as Chase was saying, in 10 to 15 minutes. And then we commit to launching at least the Android version within that week. So just really helping these retailers out. And what some of our customers were saying, whenever we kind of send out a survey, like what pain points are you experiencing? It's like, we can't even engage for the traditional retailers. We can't engage with customers right now. So how can we leverage, like, what's the best way? What's the new normal for having our customers engage with us from a curbside standpoint, from a buy online, pick up in store standpoint? And so we took a beat and looked at what companies like Best Buy and Nordstrom's were doing as it relates to curbside commerce, and really decided to prioritize that enhancement. And we're proud to say that, within 8 weeks, we built a curbside commerce enhancement that allows for customers to use a blend of text messages, push notifications, and geofencing to have contactless commerce to the curbside. And so that's one way that we've seen. And then we've also seen an influx of grocery store delivery companies crop up and use our technology to build Instacart effectively for their regions. And so it's definitely got makers and, upstarts, engaging with us more to help solve interesting problems. And then last but not least, I'll say is we've seen food and beverage companies come to us and be like, hey, how can we run our coffee shop and remote ordering and picking up through a Sandbox powered mobile app? So same like you guys, definitely feel a bit guilty about the increased engagement with retailers, but excited that we are positioned to help solve some really unique problems they're having in this new normal.
Yeah, I think guilty is one way to put it. At the same time, like, a lot of these businesses should have been doing this from the get-go, and the unfortunate situation was a kick in the butt to get it done now. I do want to point out that a lot of people bought freezers and fridges, and I just flipped the house and we literally couldn't buy the standard decent fridge just doesn't exist in the market right now. And like a consumer price point, it's always like top end models are the only thing that exists right now because everyone bought new fridges in this whole stay at home thing. So that's just a funny thing that happened during this. But I wanted to highlight something that you said there about buy online and pick up in store or curbside, etc. That last mile of commerce is like going to be what changes the game for most businesses these days. Amazon's got to jump on most people on that, but now that people are figuring out like, oh, like I can do just as much business letting people just pick it up and they don't even have to come into the store, and finding ways to put that experience, that online experience with what could have happened in store is going to be what really helps people kind of get their business to the next level.
Certainly.
Ari, I got a question for you because you are definitely more on the numbers. Has there been any interesting data coming back in the last couple of months around any of this, or just any tidbits that you think is worthwhile in sharing?
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff, but just sort of picking up on what everybody has said already, just in terms of how Shopify stores that come to us are using the data. It's actually been interesting to see a shift away from really wanting to understand that marketing ROI in more detail, which used to be like the primary reason people came to Littledata was like, Shopify and GA numbers don't match up in terms of sales and marketing attribution. Can you help us with that? And we do. But there's actually been a lot more interest in like lifetime value and building up that sort of, whatever you want to call it, like customer family, customer network around the brand, which we've always emphasized, because how can you you really don't want a company that's based around just one-time purchases. Yeah. So that's been one shift. And then just in terms of like how people are using the data in Google Analytics, another interesting just overall trend is during those first 3 months of the pandemic, we really saw average order values dropping, even while purchase, like number of purchases, whatever transaction volume was going up in a lot of categories. And now we're actually seeing things balance out a little. I think consumers are just getting more comfortable with the new, the new landscape. Maybe they're kind of planning to do things outside. They're kind of preparing for this new reality. And also we're just in June started to see a lot of subscription sales picking up again. So people signing up for, 1 year subscription to whatever it is. So subscription boxes, recurring like vitamin supplements, energy drinks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you know what? Just on that LTV aspect, does Littledata have a formula for helping businesses calculate that? I know there's like dozens of ways to calculate LTV. There's no one right
and
way.
lots of debate. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We had custom dimensions in GA for like last purchase date, total purchase count, and we tie it back to the customer ID basically. So it's just a very simple, straightforward way to say, you know, this is the lifetime value of the customers that came from this particular customer, and then you can tie it to like SKUs or product variants or product groups, whatever you want to do, and also like the original marketing channel.
Gotcha. So I guess my question is a little more broad strokes. Like, if I was to pull all my data out of Shopify and be like, here's every customer and here's their total values, and you can find the average that way, is that a good effort to try to figure out, you know, try to set some baselines of what I should be spending to acquire a customer? This is going in a completely different direction though, but top of mind for me recently because you've been asking me like, how should I calculate my lifetime value? How should I go about figuring out my marketing commitments? Like, obviously acquiring a customer could be more expensive than their first purchase, but it could make sense in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that is a good straight, you know, it's good to start with the basics. So basically, what are you spending overall to acquire customers? And then, you know, how much on average are they actually spending? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get it. But then I really think the next step is always like, okay, but then by marketing channel, is there one channel that's really, you know, offering a lot of, where there's a lot more potential that you really should be doubling down on? And sometimes that's really unexpected.
Awesome. We got a great comment in here from one of the attendees. Sheila says, it's great to look at a period of time, like the last 12 months. And I'd agree there. Your business in the first year of business is way different than your business in the fourth or fifth year of business. You're probably, hopefully, doing a lot of things better, or, you know, and you're more profitable and you got better margins. So you know what, I'm gonna stop talking. Does someone want to jump over and start asking questions to the rest of the group while we wait for some more to roll in? Well, if not, then I'll just keep going because I did prepare a few more questions here. Cool. So I do have a question for you, Sterling. Could you, most of the attendees, I would say, of today's webinar are merchants. So could you kind of paint the picture of what Sandbox does and the types of essentially like if people are engaging Sandbox, are they building a custom solution just for themselves, or can they use it for a solution to sell to other people? Is it more that they're standing up a SaaS software to then like kind of go out and find their own customers, or is it solving an individual problem for themselves?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Sandbox is a tool that helps Shopify customers, I guess probably most of the audience in attendance right now, it helps Shopify customers basically using Shopify's API it allows us to pull in all of your customer data, SKUs, descriptions, pricing, fulfillment, all that stuff into our front end, and it effectively allows you to use that same back end to build a enterprise grade native mobile app for the app stores. So effectively, the most common use case is for a emerging brand or retailer to connect their store to our platform and then build an app for their customers. And we like to call the best use case for their customers is their brand loyalists, not their window shoppers. It's not for the window shopper who's just casually browsing your product. This is for those people that are already subscribing to your newsletters, following on Instagram and Twitter. How do you increase the lifetime value of that customer? And on mobile, you need to have a very streamlined user experience to the shopping cart. And in some cases, one click. If you're looking at a particular product, can I check out with Apple Pay or PayPal or what have you? And Sandbox is really focused on facilitating that. It just so happens that in addition to that, we're also facilitating things like curbside commerce, creating a systemized and probably the best place to go, frankly, for customers, your brand loyalists who are looking to engage with you repeatedly through a mobile application or through a mobile interface, whether that's responsive or otherwise. And so that's what we're doing for most of our customers. We have, again, some use cases where upstarts want to start their own grocery delivery company. We have a couple that have used Whole Foods and Wegmans APIs to pull in live inventory from their local inventory and allow customers to grocery shop through their own branded delivery app, and then they'll deliver those goods to the customer. And so that's another use case scenario. But generally speaking, the app is made for consumers who follow a brand closely and want to know what the latest is coming from that brand and really feel like they have a space where they can really discover and purchase products on a regular basis.
Cool. So I just want to clarify here for people that, because the word app is used very loosely just in our ecosystem. So this would be like a private iOS or Android app for your brand, and it wouldn't be like an app that you're going to be pushing into the Shopify App Store. It's not that approach.
Exactly right.
Awesome. I got a few questions here from the audience. Actually, someone asked for the Sandbox Commerce URL, and I shared that with them. So you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
But this one is probably pretty dedicated to me, but I'd like to hear everyone else's opinion on this. What would you estimate a Shopify website using a premium selected theme cost would be if I was to hire an agency? The answer is all over the place. Most agencies have minimums. If you are starting from 0 to 1 and you're looking to hire an agency like ours, it probably about $1,000. But we're a more mature agency. We're a little bit more upmarket. What is everyone else kind of, where do you see the range of things starting at being? And where also a secondary question here, which is more important, I think, is like, what should you be investing your money in if you're a startup?
I think it's tough as a new brand. You want to do everything. And, half of our industry runs on FOMO. So you want to look at the best brands and the leaders, and then you want to do what they do. And that's usually too much for just starting out. I see it as a combination of branding and product, and as the most critical. You have to have a phenomenal product that people talk about, and you have to have great branding that works alongside the product. The difficulty is you can spend all your money on that, and then you also have to promote it once it's up and live. But I think people are generally surprised by how long it takes on the product development side. And I think that's a reason why the shortcuts are so attractive. Whether that's drop shipping, white labeling, selling a new version of the Theragun, whatever it is, there's a reason the shortcuts are there and are popular, because the other way is really hard. There's a lot more upside in doing it the hard way. But then you have to really invest in both the branding and the product. If you don't do that, all your marketing spend, all your effort after you launch just won't hit the same way.
Yeah, I would just to second that. My first advice to everyone is always like, start to build an email list. Don't focus too much on sales. Because if you don't really start to get your brand story right and the creative assets right, and just start engaging with who you think your buyers are, maybe you're even sort of focusing in the wrong place. And the only way to know is to actually start interacting.
Yeah, I think people are oftentimes, even just younger entrepreneurs, or if it's your first go around, that's not a bad thing. Everyone's got to start somewhere. But they put a lot of emphasis on the website being the end all be all that's going to change their business, when that is like probably the last thing that's ever going to do it. It's the product and it's the message and it's the marketing that's really going to do it. It's called product market fit, everybody, is what I'm like alluding to here. And you can have that and have the most garbage website, but if people want your product, they will use that trash and buy that thing.
Yeah.
A website just makes it easier. A website is a tool. Shopify is a tool. WordPress is a tool. Magento is a tool. Some are better than others at doing a certain job. But regardless of, it's platform agnostic. Product market fit doesn't care if you're selling on a corner out of an Apple cart, or if you're like using the most up-to-date headless, like fastest website in the world. It's still, you have to have a product people want. So when you're talking about where should I invest my money if I'm starting a new business, it depends on kind of what are your coffers, what are you working with, how much is your budget, and oftentimes you should probably do as much as you can yourself and focus any money you have on either educating yourself or getting expert opinions on the things that you can't do yourself. And one thing that I have never found someone that can find product market fit for you. That's something that you're going to have to do that legwork, and you're going to have to figure that out.
And I mean, shameless, I hate to be the guy, but not really. I've got to do it. But if you are interested in exploring new channels, traditionally it would cost upwards of $200,000 to build an app. And it would typically come 6 months to a year at the earliest after you've launched your web brand or even brick and mortar. But we have customers that are coming to Sandbox today. They're like, hey, we're launching our website in 2 weeks. Can we time our new app launch at the same time? And the cost of entry with our platform is $99 with access to all of our tools. So it really is, you don't need to spend that money to determine and to help promote your on mobile these days. You can get up and running, with very little to nothing out of pocket. And then as you scale, you elevate to various tiers. But long story short is you don't have to spend a ton of money. You can actually, like you said, you can use, in some cases, very lean ways to test out the market, find an audience. And like Ari mentioned, definitely work on the email list first and really develop your audience and communicate to those people almost even before you spend a whole lot of money doing anything else.
Absolutely. And then just to give people the straight answer that they want, how much does it cost to buy a website, to have someone work on it for you? You get what you pay for. It's all over the place. We are a more mature agency. We are a little bit more upmarket. And the question is, how much did you say? If we're starting from scratch, our minimum is probably going to be $10,000 to $20,000. And we're probably working with a different style of client than some of our attendees might be. They're a little more mature. They probably this isn't their first go around. I talk with people that aren't there yet all the time. And my biggest recommendations is, go use a premium theme off the shelf. Do it yourself until you can't. Hire a designer to help you get the last leg of it done, and focus all of your energy, time, and effort into marketing, because that's what's going to sell your product. Your website looking better than someone else's isn't going to sell your product. It's going to be the marketing that sells your product.
Yep, that's it. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Absolutely. We had a few questions here about Google Optimize. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Google Optimize, but it is awesome. I will say that. It's cool. It's free, which is the best part if we're talking about money and budgets. But I would say most people aren't there yet to be able to even use Google Optimize. Do you guys have much opinions or stuff on like split testing and all that, and how much data you need to have behind it?
I imagine that Ari, you might know a little bit more than even I do, but I would also say is that you definitely need to have volume. You have to have a lot of traffic in your site. Otherwise, it doesn't make a lot of sense to. I mean, we prematurely installed it on our site, but it's good because we didn't have to do it later. It's a couple of JavaScript snippets you install and a few other configurations. But in order to really see the value, you've got to have the volume hitting your site. But what do you, Ari, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, basically, same idea. And we built a Shopify to Google Optimize connector for people on Shopify, just to make it easier and make sure everything's, implemented correctly. Because that's something else that can go wrong depending on your site, is that the data will be will be really skewed. So usually we say, and it's kind of how we have our pricing in the app, that it's useful once you're doing around 1,500 orders per month.
Yeah. So
otherwise, you don't have enough traffic usually to make it like a useful test.
Yeah. So split testing is about getting a winning option from two options essentially, and you need a statistical like difference to be formed, and you can't do that with like 100 visitors a month. Split testing a website that has no sales is a waste of your time. You should go back to working on marketing. It's the shiny thing syndrome, I think, is people want to be doing everything and not focusing on one thing. And I'm telling you, until you're getting consistently like $1,000 a month in sales, 100% of your time should be focused on marketing and sales. Like, don't worry about anything else. There's probably a new app out there, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to help you. It's not going to change your business. You need to focus on sales and marketing. So we have a question here about how's the cosmetic industry doing during this current pandemic. I can answer that part of the question. I have no insights or opinion on private labeling or sourcing products from China. Other than you're not going to win doing drop shipping. That model's dead in my opinion. People might have other opinions on that, but you can't win that way. You need to build a real brand. But I do know the cosmetic industry was absolutely crushing it during the pandemic. There is, oh man, I'm going to murder this. There's like the pyramid of needs or something like that. And it was crazy to watch how the response to the pandemic and the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Thank you so much. So it was crazy to watch how sales started spiking almost like every week, going down this hierarchy of needs. And when it went to like the need to feel like beautiful or wanted or whatever, like just beauty shot off the roof. I went off on a tangent there. I'm sorry. I'm a nerd. But I hope that answered your question. Beauty was doing pretty well during the pandemic. And in my opinion, we're now kind of migrated into a new normal. So we're kind of just getting back into the swing of things. I don't know. I guess that's a good question for everybody else. I mean, are we in a new normal, or do you think that we're going to see some more chaotic stuff going on with e-commerce these days? I guess I'll pass it off to Ari first to see if you have an opinion there.
Sure. Yeah, it does seem like a new normal. I mean, we're seeing that engagement really was up for, a majority of our merchants, and it's stayed consistent. So I think like as long as the kind of back end fulfillment networks keep working, this is the sort of new normal.
It's similar to what we saw. We saw health and beauty specifically spike, which makes sense. And both in our data and anecdotally, I'm back to normal. It does feel like we wanted it to be over sooner. And now we all are just coming to terms with this isn't ending anytime soon. So you can kind of start going about your business. And so my spending pattern is different, but it's normalized. So I don't spend any money in restaurants, other than takeout, but not nearly as much as I used to. There are whole categories that I used to spend on that have disappeared. I don't know about you guys, but my budgeting over the past few months is the best it's ever been in terms of like a home and family budget. But it does give you some additional freedom to spend in other areas. So like when it's time to order steak for my new freezer that I have in my basement, I'm real liberal on how much I'm spending on protein. And I think a lot of people are. I bought a Traeger. I'm like, all right, I have a new hobby now, and it's smoking meat on the weekends. So it's shifted, but it feels pretty normal now. And it also, I have 3 kids. I don't know about you guys with kids, but it feels like we're going to settle in for this version of things for a really long time. And because of that, people's spending habits they're normalizing. They're not normal as in the same way that they were in February, but they are starting to turn into these regular habits of what you buy every week, what you need replenishment on, the things you look to Amazon for in terms of commodities, and the things that you look to your brands that you have relationships with. Like I fell in love with Rhone, the shorts company. I just talk about it nonstop. My wife's like, you really need to stop talking about your stretchy shorts. No one really cares that much. But so it's shifted. It's not the same way it was in February, but it is normalizing in terms of stability. Like, all right, now my budget is what it is. My spending habits are what they are. And it goes on repeat as a lot of things that happen regularly every week and every month. And some things that the brands that I have a relationship with, they like own my money.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. So we got a few questions that came in from the audience here. This one, I'm going to tackle this question. I know Sean already answered it. Do you have any recommended themes out there in the Shopify ecosystem if you're going to do this yourself? I do. They are premium themes. They're going to be a couple $100 to get you a little bit better than any of the free ones. The free ones are just that. You get what you pay for again. But the two that I recommend are Turbo by Out of the Sandbox and then Impulse by Architect Themes. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on the themes out there in the ecosystem, but those are the two that we recommend people to use if they're just getting started and they're limited by budget, or they're just trying to get in there and try out their product market fit. Seems like that's the consensus. So this one's gonna be fun. The question is, and I'm gonna pass this to Jordan first because I know he's gonna have a good answer. How important is copywriting for e-commerce?
Ooh, so I think the easy, straightforward answer is that it's very important. The way I look at it, the way I looked at it from back when I was a merchant like 10 years ago, it's the classic, your website is your salesperson. And copywriting is the thing that does the work for you. Look, e-commerce photography can't be discounted. You really need good photography. You can see it instantaneously when it's done extremely well. Like house, I think, is like the best art direction in e-commerce. Every time you see a picture, you know immediately that it's from that brand. That's the ideal. So the pictures do a lot of the selling for you, but then you have to match it. So I'd say it's really important. I have a difficult time saying it's more important or so much more important than photography. I think that's necessary. If you can't pick it up and touch it, look at it the way you do in person, and the only thing you're getting is the photography, you need to do a good job of that. I see too many brands that have just the product on its own on like a transparent or white background, and that's not doing your product any favors. So I see people generally under investing in photography. And copywriting, I don't know how confident I am in answering it, other than like I think it's really important, but I don't overlook photography when I think about the two.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add to that, or I can kind of go into my spiel? I think that this goes in kind of the next question, and it's like, do you recommend a brand manage their email marketing or hire an agency to do this service? And it's kind of a question about which products to use to solve that. And then another person asked, like, what are some good Shopify apps for generating more sales? Any of the apps that we're going to recommend are going to highly rely on copywriting, because you're going to be sharing your message and talking about your values and your features of your product and essentially what differentiates you and why they should trust, know, and like you. Like, all of that is handled through copywriting first and foremost. And then you've got imagery and video that can help you kind of secondary follow that up. So going back to the original question that was asked was, how important is copywriting for e-commerce? It is extremely important. I don't think that you're ever going to be able to outsource that until you are a multi-million-dollar brand. No one is ever going to talk about your product in the voice that you want them to talk about as a founder, unless you find like a diamond in the rough, like just someone amazing that has your voice and says things that you want to say. It's really, really hard to outsource your voice. You can hire agencies or partners or freelancers to help you set up like automation systems. Like, that's something you can easily outsource, because they're going to ask you what the copy is going to be. But like for a monthly managed thing, it's a bit difficult to manage that. It's a little easier to outsource some things than it is for others, but like they're going to be working hand in hand with you to acquire like your voice and what you kind of want to say in your own words. So you're never going to get it off your plate. You're going to be asked about it almost weekly if you're having someone help you with it. And then leading into the next question, like, what are some good apps to help generate more sales? It's going to be anything that you can stand up to help you with remarketing. So if you're remarketing through email or through SMS or even through like Facebook and Instagram ads, all of that is going to heavily rely on copywriting. So just hammering the point home, copy is super important. Learn how to copyright, read some books. that's my whole spiel on copywriting, I guess.
It's a tough thing though. It doesn't come naturally to most people, and it is a learned thing. I would say so. I somewhat reluctantly agree with you that you can't outsource it. I think what you can do is get help on establishing your tone of voice and positioning early on, and then you as the brand and your in-house people, even if that's just yourself, carry that on. So if you're thinking about like the branding exercise from start to finish, you do end up with, this is our target market, this is not our target market, this is what we're standing for, this is not, and then you can use that as a guideline. And that you can definitely, maybe not completely outsource, but you can get a lot of help on that. And then at least that gives you a framework to kind of work within. This is how we talk about things. This is how casual or not casual we are. And that at least gives you some guidelines to stay with.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of like branding exercises out there in the ecosystem where you can like get your brand voice figured out like for free if you just want to put the work in. And you can find some kind of worksheets or just like things to run through yourself to kind of put that on paper, so then you can share that with anyone that you're hiring to help you with any of these things, because they're going to thank you. They're going to be like, wow, you've helped me out. Now we can kind of hit the ground running here. We got a question here, which this one's going to be fun because everybody on the panel here is like on either from a service perspective, or they're helping people. We're not selling products. So there is product market fit in what we do, but it's not going to be as relatable to launching like an e-commerce brand. But the question is, and we'll just go down the line of my view. So Jordan first, Sterling, and then Ari, as quickly as possible. What was kind of your process of finding traction within the business? How did you realize you might have product market fit?
So I started off as a merchant, then went into software and basically built a better version of an app that I used to use, which was a cart abandonment app. When that went okay for a little while, but then as we just started listening to people, we really just followed our nose to what people wanted. We were looking at Facebook groups, we were talking to people on ClickFunnels, and we were talking to people on Shopify. And we realized people moving over from ClickFunnels to Shopify because it was a better system, but then they lost the ability to do post-purchase upsells. It was pretty obvious. We didn't have to do that much more research because we knew that there was just a giant amount of demand. So that's what we did. And when we launched it, we did the classically wrong thing of build it and they will come, but it worked because we were so certain of the demand.
Yeah. So awesome insights there. So at Sandbox, so prior to starting Sandbox, I had a software development agency that helped subject matter experts who are non-technical build an MVP. And our philosophy was like, if it takes longer than 8 weeks to build, it's probably not an MVP. And so we just worked with a lot of companies to figure out who their customers are and worked through that process. And of course, whenever I started Sandbox, I broke all the rules that we suggested for our customers, and learned many things the hard way all over again. But what I can say is that we did see an opportunity before I was at the agency, where we saw retailers were building apps for retailers, and they were spending $200,000 to build apps. So we were like, hey, this is for retailers and up-and-comers, the people we're talking to, emerging retailers, they can't afford that for the most part. It's usually at the top of the market or a little bit south of that. And so how do we help level the playing field? And so we spoke with a lot of retailers that we'd previously worked with, and we said, hey, if we provided a drag and drop solution and we made it look and feel like a premium mobile experience for your shoppers, would you guys get excited about that if there was a much lower price point? And so with that hypothesis, we built it. And when did we find product market fit? There was we launched in January of this year, came out of beta, so to speak, and almost immediately started seeing 1 to 2 initially retailers come to our site and sign up. And it was also, a lot of that had to do with copywriting the content that we've been putting out. But of course, post-COVID, it's been at least 1 a day, some days 2 new retailers sign up on the platform per day. And so somewhere along the line, I think we're in the right product market, but we're still listening to the feedback, actively listening to what brands and retailers are saying, telling us, and making tweaks here and there, as we're still pretty early. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell our journey to date.
And Ari, how did the kind of journey start for you? Where did you kind of realize that you guys might be onto something?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that last point because it is interesting. I mean, it's an ongoing process. I feel like every week we're finding, trying to make it a little better, and really answer those customer needs. So like Littledata started around 4 years ago, but it actually took us a year before we even built the first sort of Shopify app. And initially it was a tool to just audit analytics setups, which is still a part of what the app does, but we found that we'd built that for ourselves exactly for some of the consulting work that we were doing, which sounds like a lot of us have had like a similar, it was a real pain point we were feeling ourselves. And then we started to just work very closely with those initial customers that, because we found that analytics issues are actually stretched from like stores just starting out all the way up to like made.com. That was one of our first customers. It's like actually a publicly traded company now in the UK. But they were all amazingly having the same kind of issues. How do I make sure that my sales are accurate and attributed back to marketing campaigns, stuff like that. So I would say the way that we really found a fit, because we had a bunch of feature ideas like everybody, and we run design sprints, which are really useful, but then you never know until you actually test that in the market, what's going to happen. It's been basically taking product feedback directly from customers, doing like interactive tests with them, and then building things based on their needs.
Awesome. So that is I guess I should talk about us. I skipped myself. So quick answer for Electric Eye. Me and my partner Sean, who's ghostwriting in the background, answering some of your guys' questions on this Q&A. Sean and I started an agency on accident. We had a bunch of clients together, doing all sorts of stuff. But then we quickly realized that we really liked e-commerce stuff. And once we started to focus on just e-commerce and we were solving problems for brands, and then when we started focusing on Shopify and marketing around Shopify, it seemed like there was a big opportunity here to help younger merchants, get off of weird deals that they had with kind of legacy softwares. And I really like Shopify and the ecosystem in general because it's very entrepreneur driven, and the whole goal is like you can own your own business. Like you don't have to have us on retainer to help you out, but like if you want us to help, we're here. That's kind of what drove the start of our business, and to this day, like honesty is still like one of our core values over at the agency. So that's kind of how we started. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question. I got a few more here. Got about 15 minutes left on the webinar. Just a quick time check in here. So this question I answered for everybody, and then I've got a question actually for Ari. So question here, is it possible to native checkout on Facebook IG shops using Shopify yet? They announced the partnership a few months ago, and I haven't actually seen it yet. I wouldn't hold my breath. Shopify is notorious for announcing product features without due dates. I'm still waiting for things they announced at Unite last year. So that is your answer. I wouldn't hold my breath. So the next question here.
Comment on that whatsoever.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah. All right. So I've got a question here for Ari. What are the top 5 things you look at in e-commerce reports in Google Analytics?
Good question. Well, I should, I guess we can share in the chat. I'll share a link to our blog too, because it has a lot of, we put a lot of this content out for free. And like Chase was saying earlier, totally recommend, especially if you're just sort of getting going in your e-commerce journey, like educate yourself before hiring someone to be a data analyst, learn to use GA. And there's a lot that it might seem intimidating at first, but it's actually not that complicated. And yeah, 5, I mean, basically the 5 things to look for would be, your sales, your marketing, all the stuff that we've kind of talked about, but it's almost like in each of those cases, you need to look and make sure that the numbers are actually accurate. So if you're looking at how many sales you're getting from a particular marketing channel, like in the just basic channel grouping that you can see in Google Analytics, you want to make sure that you're including refunds over time, because it's possible that a particular channel or campaign is leading to actually lots of returns for whatever reason. It's just not a good fit, or maybe your ad copy was off or something. So yeah, I usually recommend, I guess it's sort of a long way of saying it's like the basic e-commerce sales report and the sort of channel groupings and stuff that are there in GA are actually really useful. And you don't initially need to build a lot of custom reports.
Absolutely. I just want to piggyback on that comment with like the three that we look for at the agency to kind of just get the ball rolling is traffic, conversion rate, and average order value. Those three KPIs can really just steer your true north for your brand. So if you're looking for somewhere to start, those should be the three that you're kind of focused on. And just this is more of a general concept. If it's not measured, it can't be improved. So if you're making efforts towards any of those KPIs, if you don't have a starting point that's correct, you can't improve it. So that'd be some quick kind of places to start. Just got a softball question for Jordan now, kind of on top of that. Oh, the three KPIs again: average order value, traffic, and conversion rate. And here's why that's cool. If you multiply the averages of those together, well, averages of two. If you multiply them together over any over any time frame segment, you're going to get a ridiculously close, accurate picture of what your sales were during that time. So then you can predict or make educated guesses on how you could increase your business by making efforts to increase those numbers in certain areas. I got a whole video on this that maybe Sean can find. Sean, it's the pinned video on our YouTube channel. Me explaining these three KPIs and why they're cool. You could drop that into the chat. But yeah, those are the three that I'd focus on. But here's a specific one is, Jordan, how can I increase my average order value on Shopify?
Yes. So yes, I appreciate the softball. I'll take it. Thank you. I'll give the quick commercial for what we do, but wrap it up into the context of you don't have to do it exactly the way we do. What we do is we make upselling more effective. And the way we do that is by taking the upsell and putting it behind the checkout page. And so traditionally, if you think about Amazon's "you may also like" feature, if you're buying a coffee maker, Amazon will say, "you may also like these coffee filters that work with your coffee maker." So that's good, and that's an upsell to increase the average order value, but that is pre-purchase. And so what that's doing to your shoppers is introducing a new buying decision, which adds friction. Amazon in particular is not that worried. They're pretty sure you're coming back to Amazon, but you as an independent merchant need to be more careful around adding friction to the buying process. So what we do is we take that upsell, we put it behind the checkout page. So in our case, the shopper would come in, add the coffee machine to their cart, and then go to the checkout, fill in all their information, hit buy. And then instead of seeing a thank you page, they would see another page that makes the offer for the coffee filters. So what that does is two things. First, it allows the upsell to be accepted very easily with one click because we are reusing the payment token generated on the checkout page. And the other thing it does is it allows you as the merchant to make very congruent offers. So you are only going to show that upsell for those coffee filters to someone who bought that coffee maker. If someone else, let's say, bought a bag of coffee, you could upsell them into a subscription of that type of coffee. So it works. So it's a good way to increase average order value. But the most important thing is that you're viewing the upsell opportunity as a way to add value to your customer, not as a way to extract as much money as possible. And if you look at it that way and you try to improve the experience of the shopper and almost do them a favor of these work well together, these go together, you should be aware of this, that is what leads to a better experience and a better average order value, yes, but also stronger relationship with the shoppers overall. So you could do it pre-purchase, you could do it post-purchase, you could do some things on the thank you page, you could do things on replenishment emails. That's how we view it.
Awesome. There's a follow-up question here that I'm sure is very near and dear to your heart. How is CartHook different from Zipify?
Sure. So, I always give a very diplomatic version of this answer because we like Ezra and we like Zipify and we like that they exist in the market, and it's kind of important for us. Generally speaking, what we do is work with some larger merchants that have more specific and custom needs. And so you can see that reflected in our pricing compared to Zipify's pricing. We generally work with fewer larger merchants, and they work with more smaller merchants. And so there are things in the product that reflect that. So we give a lot of control and have really full ability to control HTML and CSS and JavaScript and do a lot of very advanced stuff. And what that leads to is a lot of coordination between our team and the merchant's team. A lot of development, a lot of custom stuff. And because of that, we can't work on a model of quantity. We can't work with thousands of merchants. And so we've kind of positioned ourselves in the market differently. And it's great that we both exist, because if you're starting out and you're doing $5,000 a month, you really should not come to us and pay $500 a month for one tool in your arsenal. If you are doing $2 million a month and you have a lot of needs and you need a team to work with and coordinate ahead of your launches and that sort of thing, then it makes more sense for you to pay a premium and come to our product. That's generally how I look at it. So I think it's important that we both exist, because that gives more merchants the ability to do this. And really what we're doing and what Zipify is doing is we are working toward making post-purchase upsells a best practice. Same way that cart abandonment emails a few years ago were like, I don't know if I want to do that. Is that spammy, right? It's our job to kind of class up post-purchase upsells to the point where everyone sees it as a best practice and sees it as a tool. You can be a jerk with email also, but you can do email the right way. So it's the same thing. Abandoned cart emails, you can be a jerk with, or you can do it the right way. Post-purchase upsells, same type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as competitors go, rising tide brings up all ships. I'm friendly with everybody out there. We got 2 questions here, and then I'm going to make sure that I have time for our panelists to plug themselves and do a quick outro here. So first question here, I will actually tackle it, is I want to piggyback on copywriting. Would product videos and how-to videos help building the brand around providing value to potential target market be beneficial? Absolutely. Not only will videos help tremendously in educating your potential customers on your product and the value behind that, but it actually will send signals to Google saying that your product is cooler, because people are going to, if they watch a video on your product page, they are on your product page longer. Therefore, Google's like, oh, there must be good content on this page because these people are on this page longer. So it's sending awesome signals back to Google. I'm assuming you're going to put this video on YouTube. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Yeah, videos are great. Do them. That's what I got. Anyone got any follow-up on that? Awesome. So I answered that one live, done there. Got a big, how important are chatbots for e-commerce brands? I think they're cool. This is going to be a short answer because I want to have time for our guests. Chatbots are cool. You only can use them though if you have the traffic to utilize it. It's not worth investing in a chatbot if you're not doing any sales. If you're doing less than $1 million a year, I don't think your chatbot matters. That's just my blunt answer on that. You want to focus your energy on things that are going to move the needle for you. Don't get distracted by shiny things. And then the last question here that I'm going to answer before I'm going to hand it over to our panelist is, will you be hosting more of these virtual meetups? Absolutely. These are getting pretty easy for us to do as long as Sean lets me do it. And with that, I want to thank our panelists for coming on today. Quickly, I'll go down the line in my vision again. So it's Jordan first, Ari second, Sterling last. Quickly, if people want to learn more about you and kind of what you guys have to offer, let them know.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's good to do these. Good to just feel that the community is still out there beyond just Twitter. So yeah, check us out at CartHook.com to learn more about the product. And I'm on Twitter at Jordan Gall with a mixture of pictures of my steak exploits and generally kvetching about how difficult it is to run a software company.
Absolutely. Ari?
Yeah. Also, thanks. Good to be here. We really missed the sort of, especially the energy around Shopify Unite in person this year. So it's nice to be doing these and connecting. We're at littledata.io. And as I mentioned before, like if you don't feel like you're ready yet to really use the app, you still need to grow some sales and get traction. We have a lot of content on the blog and also in our new help center. That's just free information about how best to use Google Analytics for e-commerce.
Awesome. Ari, I'll be checking it out. Sean and Chase, thanks for having me. I am Sterling Smith at Twitter. I also have a big green egg and I grill on the weekends. Rib plates are my specialty. Down here in Austin, Texas, if you're in the area, I do socially distanced coffee as well. But our website is sandboxcommerce.com. Ari, we're working on, we have a pretty decent blog, actually blog once a week on behalf of the company as well. So a lot of good information around misinformation around mobile apps, the value, etc. So visit us at sandboxcommerce.com, and our blog is there as well. So again, thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. And then I'm Chase, me and my partner, Sean, who's kind of in the back. Sean, just turn your camera on. Say hi.
We want Sean.
Hey, yeah. So
What up, Sean?
What's up?
Sean and I run an agency. We're based out of Columbus, Ohio. We've been fully remote for 9 months now, so well before this. But we're Shopify partners and experts. We just help brands grow with smart marketing and design and development. So if you are kind of looking to get to the next step, maybe it's worth reaching out to us. And yeah, we're going to do this hopefully again next month. I just want to thank everyone for coming on the panel and sharing your knowledge today. Again, thank you to Shopify and Klarna. Once I figure out what the next meetup date is, it's going to hit everyone's inbox. And then a quick reminder, if you haven't subscribed to either our email list or the podcast, everyone on here has been on the podcast with the exception of Sterling. He's going to be on soon. And then also we're doing a lot of stuff on the Unprepared YouTube series where you can put a face to a voice. I don't know. But yeah, that's our webinar. That's our meetup. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Great job, guys. Fantastic.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Enjoy your week.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Yeah.
Ah.